Okay, we're going to address character death. Um, this has been a request. I've had somebody requested on the YouTube channel. I've had a couple of friends who have asked for clarification on this in the past. Now, right now, I'm only running a Werewolf of the Apocalypse game. Our typical rule is die quietly. If your character dies, accept it. Um, Now, this is to say if the character dies legitimately. There have been instances where I've had makeshift narrators that have made errors, um, or where rules have been flubbed. Now, in that situation, it depends on your players. I've had a point where at least one of my narrators had flubbed the rules fairly badly, and the players that were involved that died and lost long-standing characters, they just accepted it and moved on to new characters. Even though I asked them what do you want to do. I've had one instance where it was flubbed so badly that I've done what I call a blue line. Now, red line is when you scrap an entire scene. It's done so badly. Best example is I had a narrator that this goes back a few years ago, many years ago. They tried to start a White Howler storyline without me knowing about it, without me understanding what they were doing. When it got back to me, I scrapped the whole thing because it was not something I was willing to have run at that time due to the other storylines that we had going as well. A blue line is where you take the scenario and you rewrite it. Okay, yeah, the scene went like this, then now how do you rewrite it? In the case of a character dying, how did they live? This is not that hard to do as long as you do it really sparingly. I've only done it once. In doing it, it basically was explained that they had a lot of favor garnered with Bear, and Bear didn't let them die. That they held them on where they were functionally in a healing stasis form of thing when everybody assumed that they were dead. Now, granted, this has to be done quick as well, so literally it only changed the perceptions of basically their pack, and their pack was more than willing to accept it because their pack understood that the death didn't feel right, the death just didn't work. Okay, so for the most part, I mean, I've got a group that is pretty good about this. Um, but the question isn't so much about character death in that regard. Um, this is about PvP character death because that seems to be where the big issues come. Now, Werewolf, it's going to happen on occasion because you have challenge pits. You have challenge pits, and occasionally dominance challenges go out there. And the big thing is frenzy. Now, somebody dies from a frenzy, they're, they're not gonna be too many issues because it's not really PvP. Once you frenzy, it's not so much your character anymore. I'm using it, and I'm gonna be the one who's gonna be making mincemeat out of your friends. Um, in that case, I catch the blame. You're not gonna have a big PvP issue there. If you, in challenges, okay, occasionally in challenges it's gonna happen. Sometimes it goes too far. Sometimes the person who dies they just won't give up. That happens way too often because people just have too much of a pride issue and don't realize that people are going to, when you realize you're at a lost cause, you're going to surrender, and you don't see it near enough. And a lot of times it's not so much my character won't surrender to your character, it's I'm not going to surrender to you. It's a player versus player thing. It annoys the hell out of me, and players will try to justify the hell out of it. But in the end, um, if you shine a light on it, they'll usually cave. Now, you do occasionally have those nasty ones. I show my throat, and the other person rips it out. Um, a Shadow Lord stabs me in the back. It's hard not to be angry about those. The key thing there is storyteller narrator involvement. This is for Werewolf now. If they agree that it's legitimate, I would accept it. You know, maybe I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand what's happening. I mean, hell, the werewolf could be possessed by something, and the player's playing it brilliantly, and they're killing me for it. So in essence, it's the storytellers doing it, but I don't know that. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and accept it. If there is an issue, if you have a strong storytelling staff, they're going to recognize it. They're going to stop it, like the Inigo Montoya rule that we have. If anybody hasn't seen Princess Bride, you killed my father, prepare to die. I have in some way fucked over your previous character who's now dead. You bring back another character for vengeance. Okay, a good storytelling staff is going to stop that. It hasn't happened in my game in forever. But in previous games I run, it did happen, and that's part of the reason we have that rule, which it's aptly named the Inigo Montoya rule, and I've heard it used everywhere with that title. Now, one of the biggest issues I've heard with this is a lot of people keep talking about Vampire. What you got to understand is I used to run Vampire for a long time. Very successful game. I finally retired from Vampire because, frankly, Vampire is a toxic game. It brings out toxic traits in the players who play it. Why? Because it is a PvP game. In the end, your best friend is going to be the person who's going to slide that knife in your back. It is all about taking out other people. Now, people can sit there and say that's not what the concept of it is, but if we're talking about LARP, yeah, it is. There ain't no way you're going back to what the original concept is, which is trying to keep from becoming a monster. That works in a small tabletop group. And I'm talking about small, no more than about 5. It does not work in a LARP setting. It does not work in larger groups. A lot of things have warped it to the point where it has become a power grab. It's literally a king of the hill. Who's going to be the king of the hill? Can you get there? If not, can you support your person? Basically, it's going to be what faction. It's gang wars. That's all it comes down to. And you're going to have a lot of PvP. You're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to happen, from outside of the character. That's the problem when you have functionally code arrays of people who are trying to go after each other. If an out-of-character tidbit gets to even one of them, that group, they're going to talk about it, and then somebody in there is going to figure out a way to manipulate that group and use that information to the point where most of the others can actually deny it. The best way to avoid these PvP frustration deaths is not to play Vampire. I'm sorry. Vampire is not, I've come to the conclusion that if you play a Chronicle of Vampire, you are subjecting yourself to a toxic environment. I think it would work best as maybe a twice a year event. You're still going to get PvP, but people don't get as upset about it. They don't have as much investment in it, and they're not going to take it as personally. If you take things personally, Vampire is not for you. Then I do recommend games like Werewolf. And in Vampire, it could be just like with Werewolf. Sometimes you have to trust the staff. You don't know when somebody's been possessed, or you don't know when somebody's been dominated, and they're going to be taking some action that's going to fuck you over. It happens. You have to make some decisions when you're playing that game. First off, how willing am I to trust the staff? How willing am I to trust certain players? How willing am I to trust the staff to deal with certain players? How willing am I to trust that any grievances I have will be addressed by the staff? Because a lot of times it comes down to, okay, I just got blood hunted and hunted down and killed, but how in the hell did anybody know that I did it? There's no way. So I think that the person that I diablerized 3 weeks ago, I think they ran their mouth, and somebody justified it by, and when it told the prince like they knew, and now I got fucking killed for it. Is that how it worked? Okay, so you have to trust it. The staff is going to be able to track down, how did you get this information? And a lot of staffs are lazy and won't do it, or they know the players are going to lie about it. Do I trust the staff if the staff gives me a basic answer of it was all legitimate? How much do I trust them that, okay, there might have been dominate, necromancy, auspex, in that scenario, any of those three things very well could have affected people realizing that I was a Diablerist and who I Diablerized, and that would give them a reason to come after me. Do I trust that? Or do I think that, Mr. Power Gamer over there was told by his girlfriend, who was standing there when me and the target were talking about it, out of character? Do I trust that that wasn't used? Or do I trust that the staff is going to find that out and go, hey, that's not good to do? That's always been my issue, is because Vampire is a very cliquish game. And when you get those larger clicks, they tend to get what they want. So how do you deal with PvP deaths? Like I said, other than walking away, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is accept it. If there's issues with it, or perceived issues with it, or concerns, bring it to the staff and have it documented. That way, if it happens again, or happens to somebody in an exactly similar way, because it will, because power gamers, when they find something that works, they use it. They're like the video gamers that they have to find every hack that's going to beat every boss. They use it to kill you. They're going to use it to kill somebody else. But once you see it, if you can get the staff to see the pattern, they're going to deal with it. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot you could do. You just have to be more mature than them, because you have to trust that eventually the mature gamers are going to drive the immature gamers out. Because if they don't, the immature gamers are going to drive the mature gamers out. And in the end, there will be another game starting up somewhere that just has those mature gamers, and you could be a part of that. Hell, that's the situation in this town. I've got the mature game. The other game, not so much. But then again, that's why they've crumbled and they're just coming back together now. Okay. If anybody else has any views on it, let me know. Or if you have any questions. It's about the best answer I can give. My hair is a mess. Jesus. So, yeah. I know this is the first video I've done in about 2 years. I'll do some more here in the next few weeks. So, have a good one.